partner, 28F, wants an abortion. I, 33M, am devastated. My wife and I have been together for almost 6 years. Married for 1 year. A while ago, my wife and I had a conversation that if we were to accidentally get pregnant, we would just accept the consequences and raise the kid, as we both have always wanted kids. This was apparently a casual, non-serious conversation to my wife. She now says, but it always seemed serious to me. About a year ago, we started to play things a bit looser as far as using protection and switched to using the Natural Cycles app. Uses timing of her cycle and her body temp to predict when she's not fertile. Fast forward and we're pregnant. It was a surprise. She wants an abortion. I definitely do not. I respect that it's her body and her decision. But I can't help but feel it's the wrong decision for us. I feel misled by her and the conversation we had about pregnancy. For the last 2 years we have talked about having children regularly. Talking about baby names on a pretty regular basis. I had some moments of despair in my worldview and questioned whether I did want children. But always returned to the strong conviction that I did want them. My wife has consistently wanted children, but struggles with anxiety surrounding the issue of motherhood, likely as a consequence of being raised by an abusive mother, and fears of not being mentally ready to be a mom. She also recently graduated from grad school and is essentially starting her remote work career now. We recently moved to a new state 2 months ago and don't know tons of people out here. We have a few good friends, but we don't have as much social support as we used to. Financially, we can support children. My wife feels that she is about 3 years away from having a child. This feels like ages to me. I am feeling old already. She has been saying she's 35 years away from the last 23 years. My feeling is that many people never feel ready to have kids. And, knowing my wife, she will never feel fully ready. I worry that my wife's decision is mostly fear and anxiety driven. She has always been a pessimist and very often makes situations out to be far worse than they are. This has been going on since I've known her. I worry about resentment I might develop towards her for having this abortion. I question her decision when she says she wants to have kids in 23 years but not now. I guess the difference seems not very significant. And we are pregnant now. So why not go with it? Otherwise we will always wonder about this one, this pregnancy, and what could have been. From a relationship standpoint, I struggle to understand how we can have a sex life again after this. I also don't think I will be in a state of mind to chat again about having kids for a long time. After an abortion, as this will be very painful for me. I know that it is her decision at the end of the day. It doesn't change the fact that this is tremendously painful for me. I want to be a dad so bad, but here we are having an abortion. How can I deal with these emotions? How do I preserve my relationship with my wife? It's hard to imagine us weathering this storm without some deep scars. I'm worried I will never see her the same way again. How do I prevent my heart from growing bitter? Please advise. Thank you. TL. Dear wife wants an abortion. I am surprised and feel misled and deeply troubled by the thought. She says she will be ready in a couple years. But I don't think the stars will ever fully align. You should have a calm conversation with her about your thoughts and fears, and maybe you will hear more of her reasoning too. Communication is important. Maybe you both and as individuals can look into therapy for this situation and feelings surrounding it. You and your wife switched to a birth control method that's ineffective and started talking seriously about kids, including baby names, etc. You both want kids. If anything, she more consistently than you. But she also has anxiety and previous trauma. I would prioritize some kind of therapy right now. Because with termination, it's very time sensitive. Not full-out therapy. There isn't time. But she needs to discuss her wishes, feelings and fears with someone who isn't emotionally invested, so that she makes the right choice for herself too. And yes, depending on her choice, it might end your marriage through resentment on either side, depending on how things pan out, or more directly. But the priority for her should be talking through her fears with someone safe, so that she makes a choice she doesn't regret. I agree with most comments here. You both need to have a down-to-earth talk, maybe even with a couples therapist, about the future of the relationship. Your feelings are valid, and if this was her own sudden realization, her own feelings are valid, and no one can force one way or another. It would be wrong for you to convince her to have a baby she won't be happy with, and it would be wrong for you to stay with her if you would ultimately be unhappy in the relationship. It just means unfortunately your goals aren't aligned. But y'all gotta have this talk now while options are available to the both of you. It sucks and it's hard, but these are big decisions for the both of you. I think you have a pretty balanced view on this. Honestly, you are losing a baby you want. It's devastating. Also, she is absolutely right to choose not to have a baby at this time if she doesn't want to. It's a body-altering, life-changing thing that should be done wholeheartedly. It is almost guaranteed to stifle her career, and she's just getting started. 3 years will make a difference. Both of those things are true. This isn't about picking sides. You can't just decide not to be sad. But dumping your grief on her or vilifying her isn't fair either. So you can't be completely honest about your feelings without hurting her. I can't see how you wouldn't feel like an absolute mess right now. It sounds very lonely. If you don't have someone else in your life that you can have emotionally vulnerable conversations with, because men be like that, you could look for a therapist who can help you digest all the conflicting feelings so you can move forward. This is definitely tough. I understand why you feel betrayed given that your wife has always said she wanted children. Presumably she agreed to use less effective birth control knowing the implications of that. I would recommend you have an honest conversation about how you feel and your fear about the effect it will have on your relationship with her, not in the context of condemning her about the abortion. As you said, her body, her choice. But the impact this will have on your relationship will also be tangible. Definitely suggest couples therapy. Maybe if she can share a definitive timeline with you, maybe you can feel confident you will be a father someday. Or maybe she will reveal that she may never truly be ready to have a child, and in that case you need to have a serious conversation about the future of the relationship with her. It may ultimately mean that you two have become incompatible and your future goals no longer align, which is a relationship deal breaker. Sorry. I think your feelings on this are quite reasonable and understandable, but maybe I could explain something to you that maybe you hadn't considered before. Pregnancy is no joke. Even for a really healthy person, pregnancy can be very difficult. It is a process that permanently alters both your mind and your body. People who were healthy before pregnancy can and do develop chronic health issues after giving birth. And then there's the hardest part, raising that child for at least the next 18 years. It's a hard, often thankless job. Parenthood will put a lot of strain on and truly test the strength of your relationship. It's a lot to think about, and a lot to prepare for. Emo. I don't think your wife is wrong to want to wait a couple more years to prepare. Given the prospects she's facing, nature did not distribute the labor of reproduction equally. After all, you should talk to your wife about your concerns, and be ready to listen to hers. Perhaps couples counseling is in order for you. I truly wish the best for you and your wife. You're worried about resenting her for not having this baby. Imagine bringing this baby into the world and have its mom resent you for convincing her to have a child she wasn't ready for. and resenting the child for existing. That being said, it's a completely difference of opinion that can unfortunately only be decided by her. Your only path is to get grief counseling for this loss and to work through your feelings with a professional. Your feelings are high right now, so don't make any permanent decisions. But if you can't see past your own desire to have a child immediately, then you may need to leave her. If you pressure her to keep it, she will most likely end up with postpartum depression and resentment towards you, which in turn will destroy your marriage eventually. I'm sorry, dude. Do you think going to a couples counselor on this issue would help? Sorry to say, but this sounds like an irreconcilable difference. If she has the kid to appease you, she may end up resenting both you and the child. She honestly does not seem ready to have this child. If she goes through with the abortion, you may end up resenting her. In the end, it is her choice, but your marriage may not hold up to whichever decision is made. You act like going ahead with the pregnancy is no big deal. It is a huge deal. Yes, your wife may have stated she wants kids at some point, but she is telling you straight that since the reality has hit, she is absolutely not ready. She is not ready to donate her body to 9 months of discomfort, go through birth, postpartum healing, and then deal with discovering the complexities of rearing a newborn. My partner is the one who pushed having a child when I felt I wasn't ready. I went ahead with it. I too suffer from anxiety and past traumas. I was ill throughout the pregnancy. Had a traumatic induction and birth that went on for 5 days. I had an episiotomy and forceps removal but still torn horrendously. I picked up an infection in hospital which took 3 rounds of antibiotics to get rid of. I was in agony and unable to sit down properly for about 8 weeks. My stitches has dissolved early and there was no healing due to infection, so I had an open wound for that length of time. My newborn cried all the time. He would projectile vomit at random. He suffered with colic from 2 weeks old and would scream for 2 hours straight no matter what I did. He also woke every 2 hours until he was about 12 weeks old. Read through our Beyond the Bump stories. My experience is relatively common. Birth trauma, feeding woes, and inconsolable babies. It may vary slightly, but the simple fact is the postpartum period and caring for babies is hard. I had a breakdown about a month or so ago that I am recovering from. My relationship is basically destroyed because I have so much resentment towards my partner. Not just for pressuring me to get pregnant, but because he realized he had no clue whatsoever on how to deal with a newborn, and it was easier for him to leave it to me. I have taken a huge hit financially, and I have been suffering from chronic sleep deprivation and PPD for 4 months now. I'm telling you all this because you don't seem to comprehend the seriousness of the situation. I think a lot of men imagine having kids as the 4-year-old walking around and talking, taking them on days out and having fun making kids giggle. There is a long, hard road to travel before you get to that point. If you feel like you will resent her for having the abortion, then either go through counseling or leave the marriage. But do not guilt trip someone who already has issues and anxiety into a pregnancy they are not ready for. It won't be pretty. Your wife's childhood trauma cannot be ignored. If you want your wife to have a child, you need to support her. Don't make this about a promise she made to you. You need to hold your wife's hand and realize the consequences of having a grandchild with a once abusive mother. I assume she's still living. Talk with your wife about being a mother and her abusive mom being a grandmother. Talk about how you will support and help her cope, and that she won't have to deal with her mother alone. These are probably the things going on in your wife's mind. Her first baby is going to be about her and her own mother. Until your wife is confident that she will have the resources to deal with an abusive grandmother, She'd probably rather abort. Give your wife the time and space to talk aloud all the things she fears. Don't dismiss them by saying she's pessimistic. Listen to her fears and help her discover that you two can make this work. Plus, maybe your parents can help her deal with the problems her abusive mother might cause. Good luck. This is far too deep for Reddit. Try couples counseling. The one thing I will say to you is time and love are the greatest healers of wounds. Good luck to the both of you. I am sorry to say that this situation is probably going to kill your relationship. You're going to resent her for deciding to have an abortion, and always wonder what that child would have been like. And if she has the child just to please you, then she is going to resent you for going through with it. This is a very rough situation for both of you. I really don't think your marriage will survive this. TBH, maybe you two should go to a couples counselor and they can help. But this is what I see. 1. She truly realized she doesn't want to have a child, even though she always talked about it with you. If she aborts, there will be resentment and sadness between you. Of course it is her choice, but it devastates you, and I see a divorce. And searching for someone more compatible who will keep a baby. 2. She carries to term, and has a baby. She develops PPD or worse, on top of feelings of not even wanting to have the baby in the first place. There may be resentment towards you and she may abandon the family or worse. Not trying to fear-monger etc., but either way I don't think it will end well unless you get counseling and or a very serious conversation to try and understand each other. Mending heart. Hope you can figure it out together. It may be the wrong decision for you but the right decision for her, as the person whose body will irreparably change, and the person who in the majority of relationships will end up being the primary carer for the child's lifetime. I don't think dismissing how she's feeling as anxiety is necessarily the right approach. I believe that at least one of you will feel resentment after this experience. Do you think you'd be able to move forward if she got an abortion? Or is it a hard no for you? That's worth discussing. If she has the child and can't stand it or doesn't want to be primary caretaker, are you both in roles where you'd be able to do all or most of the caretaking, including bottle feeding? Would you like to gamble on her getting used to it with a baby's life? Because there is a very real scenario where she has it, resents you, resents the child, and your marriage doesn't survive. Does having a baby right now matter so much to you that you're willing to potentially have that happen? Check out our Regretful Parents for stories of fence-sitters who had kids without being fully committed or who just found out it was harder than they expected. And really talk and listen to what your wife has to say. She isn't ready for kids. It doesn't matter if you are. She's not. Terminating the pregnancy sounds like the best way forward. It's not fair to expect someone to brutalize their body for 9 months and then go through the trauma of childbirth when they have said they're not ready. Just because the other person, who faces no physical harm in either decision, says that they are ready, she should be going to therapy to deal with her anxiety. And you'd likely benefit from therapy to deal with your disappointment. But please stop thinking of her carrying and giving birth to your child as something she owes you, or should do now because she happens to be pregnant. Oh, and you two need to get back on better birth control. Being more intentional about family planning is key if she's not actually ready to go through with a pregnancy yet. Your wife might never feel ready to have a child. You want one. It's not fair to subject a child to a mother that never really wanted him or her. This is a discussion that you need to have with your wife. If she chooses to have the abortion, the two of you should consider finding partners that really want what you want. I am sure she shares the same worries. The problem is, the timing is off big time for her. It is different talking about babies and then actually being pregnant at a time that is not right. For whatever reason, it just can feel totally unwanted at that time. Look, you have to understand. I mean, try to. She just doesn't want to be pregnant. It's not about wanting an abortion. Pregnancy is unwanted and wrong. For her, right now, the pregnancy isn't going to fit into your lives at the present time. It's like turning down a great cruise offer for free. Even though you always wanted to go on a cruise, sometimes the plan or the gift isn't fitting your life plan in that moment. So you just have to say no to it. In this case, it's also her body and livelihood at stake. Those are some high stakes. She is young. She can probably still get pregnant easily enough in a year or so. But for now, she needs to not be pregnant. You definitely don't want her to birth an unwanted pregnancy. That can lead her to resent both you and the baby. It's a real thing. You don't need that either. So the bottom line is that an unwanted pregnancy is an unwanted condition. Period. You should be okay with her making her own life choices. Also, don't be surprised if you have to use condoms or she goes on birth control after this. The rhythm method, i.e. ovulation predicting, is highly ineffective at preventing pregnancy, since you want both of you to be all in when the time comes to really make a baby. Just know that hormonal birth control is far more effective than condoms or rhythm method. Until that time comes, when you both agree to trying again, you will really both be trying for a baby. Meanwhile, possibly seeing a family counselor and letting her work through her child abuse issues can also help.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.